The fact that society labeled my mother, to me is not really the point. Or labeled my brother, or my boss, is not really the point. Of course, there are certain expectations that come with that. And those expectations in my mind are respect. It's about respecting people. So I will respect my mother. I will respect my brother. I will respect my boss. But to take the next step into friendship and family, I don't believe that should simply be because society has created these connections. I'm a big believer in earning trust. Nobody in my life is friend or family until they have earned my trust. Welcome to the Solar Wilson Conversation. This is a forum where we share our views through the lens of a Nigerian, lesbian, legally married couple. I am Margaret Solar Wilson.
And I am Moji Solar Wilson.
Moji and I believe in and are committed to creating space for real, authentic, transparent, and inclusive conversation. We talk with each other and we talk with others. So sit back because it's time for real talk. Moji, I have a feeling our conversation today is going to be a really interesting conversation and thought-provoking. After our last episode where we talked about community, you and I had a conversation about family. And it's interesting that we haven't really touched on that. We talked about our parents and we skipped over that and went directly to community. And today we thought we would talk about family because there's some interesting nuances. And often in the LGBTQ community, you hear people say he or she or they are family. It's almost as though it's a march towards a different definition of the word family. So we thought we would unpack that today.
It's been an interesting conversation between you and I. And we all know the dictionary meaning of the word family. You have to be connected by blood, and it's generations and generations of family. But in the LGBTQ community, like you said, I remember being in a space at an event once, and somebody walked up to me and said, "Are you family?" And I'd never heard it before, and I just looked at the person and I said, "No." Not realizing that family is the code for being gay. So yeah, I think it's something that we should definitely unpack it.
Yes, I've often wondered if we have a subliminal need in the LGBTQ community to redefine the word family. You often hear us in the community say things like family is not always blood. What does family mean to you?
Family to me means people that care about me, people that are there, people that I can count on, people that can count on me, people that I will drop everything to get to them if they needed me. That's what family means to me.
I really don't know what family means to me. I really don't. I do know that when I think of my blood family, and I think of my brother, and I think of my mother, and I think of my father, those are people in my life that will always hold a special place. And then I think of the family I have right now with you, my spouse, my life partner. Nothing comes above that in my mind. That to me is family. Having said that, that is not my entire family.
Mm-hmm.
I have many members of my family that feel very distant. And I will say that I have friends that are much closer to me than some members of my family will ever be. I have friends who have earned a special place in my life that some members of my family never will. I do find it difficult, however, to lump everyone in one big category called family and pretend to myself that blood ties are without value, which is sometimes the way it feels when I hear that sweeping statement that family is not always blood. Yes, it isn't always blood. But somewhere in that statement, when I hear it or when I say it, it feels very defensive, and it often feels like it's coming from a place of pain. How would you react to what I just said?
That's deep. But I'm on the other side of that. I'm on the extreme side of that. And the reason I'm on the extreme side of that is that I grew up, I've very often said with my father that I had 12 wives. My mother left when I was 1. My father was my family. And I was a burden to everybody else. So I was put into boarding school at 8. Now, when you talk about family for me, my family were strangers, people I met along my journey that took that journey with me through that chapter. So we tend to see the world through our lenses, which is derived from our walk through life, right? When I was 37, I met my mother. She found me, I don't know how. I was in New York. So I was excited to find family. Oh my God, I've always wanted to belong. Like most gay people, we want to belong. We want to be loved. We want to be accepted. And of course, because the definition of the word family, which means blood ties, which in my head, I just assumed because I have children and I know how I feel about my children, she would feel the same for me. But what I got to learn through my engagement with my biological mother is the fact that just because you share blood with somebody does not make them your family. She could not go back to when I was 1. She could not be my mommy, but she was my mother. She gave birth to me. We're so different from each other. And her fiduciary to her children that grew up with her, they have many, many years of building a ship of some sort. I cannot now come in as a stranger, because that's really what I was at 37. And even today, I'm still a stranger. And expect to be family. I'm not priority. Now, when you take somebody like that, my biological mother, and somebody, I'm not going to say their name, somebody I met on social media 10, 12 years ago, that person that walked me down the aisle is more family to me than my blood ties. So for me, I think a lot of us LGBTQ people, we have to redefine the word family. In the last episode, we talked about Paris's burning. When their families shunned them and threw them out, they created a whole new family. People that worried about them, people that cared about them, people they fought with, people they shared meals with. That's what family looks like to me. Not just blood ties.
It's interesting that you say that, and as I sit here listening, I begin to think maybe time has something to do with this. Maybe an early experience. I'll tell you, when I hear you talking about your mother, I think about my family. My relationship with my mother, as I've shared, was like the relationship you had with your father.
Yeah.
You know, they walked with us through our entire lives, and really hold a special place in our hearts, always. I say to people, my mother is, yes, my mother, but most importantly, she's my friend, like my brother. But I also have 7 other siblings, blood relationships, my father's 7 children, not my mother's. I don't feel any connection with them whatsoever. I don't feel the need to know them. I don't feel the need to engage with them. I don't know them as people. I don't harbor any animosity. I just don't know them. You met your mother at 37. I don't know these siblings of mine. Is there something about sharing experiences when we are still forming and traveling through life with people that makes them family, regardless of whether we have blood ties or not? So, for example, I've known my brother and my mother forever, it felt like, right? As a child. And we've walked through experiences, challenges, trials, triumphs, tribulations. We have this collective bond of experiences. Is that what makes us family? Is that how we should look at it?
I want to say yes, but I have to say no. And I'll give you 2 examples. When you and I got together, I met your mother over the phone, and she and I developed a relationship. And in the short 3 or 4 years that I had a relationship with your mom, she became my mommy. 3 years. So it's not the quantity of time, it's a quality. I could call your mother about anything. Sometimes I just called and I didn't have to say a lot. And for some reason, she would start talking about something that related to what was troubling me. One of the things that I learned in the past, I think 10 years, I don't think it's about relationships. I think it's about people. I think it's about compassion, it's about empathy, and it's about people's ability to love without borders. I say that because my father has 31 children. I think I only know about maybe 7 or 10 at the very most. And even those that I grew up with, that I shared the same house with, that I broke bread with as a child, and throughout their adulthood, journeyed with me. When I came out, they were no longer family. Then, when I look at the fact that they shunned me, then when I look at even my mother's relationship, my mother has 5 children. I am the first. Actually 6 children. The boy that was born before me had passed away. I am the first child. When we reconnected in when I was 37, I was so excited. I was hungry for my own family. And it didn't turn out that way. I became a cash machine. Then, as I evolved, I started to heal and build boundaries. As a mother, some of my children turned their backs on me as well. So for me, it's not how long you've been with a person, or you've built, or you've walked through life with a person. It's about how that person values you, carries you, you know? For a lot of us LGBTQs, we're like eggs. That's the only way I can describe it. Because when I think about my journey with my children, and I always wanted children because I wanted a family of my own, which is where I derive that peace, that it's not about the time that you spend with a person or how much time that you spend with a person. It's how those people or persons value you. It's how compassionate or empathetic they are to your walk, to your being. It's how much they're willing to sacrifice and invest in you. That's what quantifies family to me. Family is not the people I give to. It's not the people that I do things for. Family, to me, is a very symbiotic relationship, and blood has nothing to do with it. through my lenses.
So when you put it like that, the family concept becomes troubling. Because how does this all come together for people in the LGBTQ community? Because at the end of the day, we have people listening who, yes, they hear us talking about family, but they're struggling with building families of their own. And for many LGBTQ families, to talk about lesbian couples, for example, there's always going to be an imbalance in terms of blood ties. And there are always going to be other family members. And we talk about a blended family. You've talked about how easy it was for you to blend with my mother, for example, maybe my brother. I'm sure you can't say that about all the other people in my family, just a few. My mother, my brother, my nephew. But I've got a large family. And when we think about how we tried to come together, the concept of blended family has been really difficult for us. I have a good relationship with your mother, not so much with your other siblings. Many of them I don't even know. And you can say the same about me. So when we say family is not always blood, is that simply saying, is that admitting the challenges and maybe the failures that many of us have in trying to build our own families the way the straight world understands it? Are we trying to redefine the word family simply because we know that having a family may not be possible for many of us?
I think, can I be candid?
You always are.
Okay. So, my truth is that families don't blend. You can't just take people and put them in a blender and blend them. It doesn't work that way. For me, through my lenses, what I see is, even in the heteronormative world, there's a lot of pretending that happens, where people pretend to like each other, where they pretend to care about each other. The truth is, Thanksgiving tables are the most miserable tables in family settings. Now, when you bring strangers together that don't have a place to go, they sit at that table with such gratitude and such love. I have sat at many family tables in my past life where I knew I did not fit in, but we all pretended and we would hold hands and talk about what we're grateful for. And then it got to a point that I could no longer do that because you don't really know me. You don't know my demons. None of them knew me. They thought they did, and none of them really cared to know me. Because at that point in my life, I had enough money to do whatever. Anytime people needed money, they came to Moji. It wasn't about Moji, and Moji wanted to be loved. So I gave everything to everybody. It still didn't make them family. Because family would stay with you when you come out. When you come out, family stays. They don't shun you. They don't leave you. Then when we take it to children, because people always think, oh, when I have my children, they're going to be my family. I'm creating. That's what I thought. I have 4 children. Some of the loneliest times in my life have been with my children around me. Because you give, again, everything to everybody else. So when people ask me, what's the definition of family? My family changes very often. Along my walk, I have learned to love and accept people for however long they're in my life. And I will love them. And if they love me back, it's amazing. And if they don't, it's okay. Because sometimes people are not able, especially LGBTQIAs. What I have learned, and I've been giving of myself, my money, my heart, my time to LGBTQI people since 2009. Some people don't have it to give. So it's important to look at people as they come, as they are, and accept what they can offer. Remember the word boundary that you ended up the other podcast with? Once I was able to create my boundary, which I'm still building as time goes along because of the journey that I have had with you, I have learned that family is not blood. Family is not even always this. The composition of my family changes very often because I realize that as people, when we grow, we have to leave some people behind. And people always say, oh, my children are going to be my life, or my father is my life. When my father died, I slept for almost 2 years. And when I say sleep, I didn't really sleep. I just wasn't all there. But I got up. One day I woke up and said, you know what? Time to start all over again. And I'm standing here. If anybody had ever told me that I could do that, just continue. When my father was the only family with my fingers going up that I had in my head. But when I looked around, there was a lot of people that were family.
Listening to you was really, it's painful, just empathizing with your words as you spoke them. And I think the comment that I want to bring you back to, and I think I'm bringing you back there because I think it will resonate with many people who are listening to us, including the LGBTQ community, is your reference to Thanksgiving. The Thanksgiving table for me as an adult, and for those listening who are not from the US, pick any holiday where families come together. Here it's often Thanksgiving. In Nigeria it's often Christmas or a Muslim holiday, Ileya, right? As an adult, the Thanksgiving table for me has been one of the loneliest places to be. Because it's very often an inner circle and people on the outside. And I think when that came home to me the hardest, as related to the discussion we're having today, was the Thanksgiving we had in our own home, where I sat at the table and felt completely at the fringes. And the only thing that kept me sitting at that table was you.
Yeah.
I felt like a complete outsider. It was one of the most isolating experiences I've had. And this was at our family Thanksgiving table in our home. So I hope that, the next time we're all at tables like that, we understand that being in the inner circle is a privilege, but it can very easily become an oppression to others who sit at the fringes with nothing but gratitude. I listened to your other comments, and I still don't know where we stand with family. Your comment about families don't really blend. Where does that leave us? Does that then not take us all, regardless of sexuality? Be we LGBTQ or straight or asexual or whatever category, black, white, whatever religious affiliation. Does it then, in my mind, here's how it causes me to think. Blood ties are simply a function of biology.
Exactly.
Right? But they're an advantage of biology, right? Because you have a connection to someone that shares common genetic traits, someone who maybe looks like you, someone from a similar background, and you have a reason to embark on a journey together. But then, in my mind, that comes with a responsibility of appreciation and a choice of whether we want to nurture that relationship, make it grow into a friendship, a deep friendship, which is the way I've navigated life with my mother, my father, not so much because I can't say we were friends, but my mother, my brother, and my nephew. And at the same time, we should be open to others who may not have a blood tie, but who perhaps want to journey through life with us and we through them. And do we do people a disservice when we categorize the people around us based on blood ties? And for example, you see families do this a lot. My family member can do no wrong. So whatever the circumstance, I'm going to side with my family because we have these blood ties. That can be very destructive. I don't know, Moji. I really don't know how to think about the concept of family. I don't even know if I should. What do you think?
A young man that I mentor said something to me yesterday. I think his exact words were, relationships are like a car. You have to service the car for it to last for a long time. When I think about the word family, many people just take it for granted that because you're blood, they don't need to pour into you. They just take from you, and you, especially if you're successful, you're obligated to do for them. You're obligated to whatever, give them whatever they want. And I find that my closest relationships are not blood ties. So when people talk about family, I don't think about blood ties. I think about people that I have a symbiotic relationship with. And that's why I continue to say my family dynamic sometimes changes because somebody falls off. You know, it's like the plane example, the airport thing. You know, there's many connections to your destination. But we anchor ourselves to people that have the same blood as us. So half the time we can't even fly as high as we should, emotionally, financially, and mentally. At this point in my life, with all the journeys, different journeys and twists and turns that my life has taken, I value each person as they come. And when they earn that label family, I don't put an anchor to it because I have learned that the dynamic can change at any moment. And friendships first. If you're my friend and you're my daughter, you're not going to hurt me. And sometimes you'll hurt me because you don't know, but you'll see me as a human being. Because when we tie that label to a woman that gave birth, that gave up her body, that gave so much up, and we say, mother, this is my mom, or this is my mommy. We expect so much from that person to give up their life because they did it, bringing us into this world. So that sense of entitlement to everything, the blood, the sweat, the tears, everything, without us giving them grace. I don't know my mother's walk. Your mother told me that. When I said I'm not dealing with my mother anymore, and I had not spoken to my mother for many years. And I remember talking to your mother one day, and she asked me about my mother. And I said, I don't know what she's doing. I haven't spoken to her in many years. She hurt me really badly. And your mom said to me, you don't know her walk. So if we give people grace and just allow people to come into our lives and accept what they have to offer, blood ties, no blood ties, as long as their values align with ours, we can give them a seat at a Thanksgiving table with an open heart. And when it's time for them to move on, we send them off with love and light.
I must say I agree with you, right? I do agree with that. One of the things that I've come to realize about myself, and probably born out of my life experience, is that I have limited regard for the societal stamp on the nature of connections. So for example, the fact that society labeled my mother, to me is not really the point. Or labeled my brother, or my boss, is not really the point. Of course, there are certain expectations that come with that. And those expectations in my mind are respect. It's about respecting people. So I will respect my mother. I will respect my brother. I will respect my boss. But to take the next step into friendship and family, I don't believe that should simply be because society has created these connections. I'm a big believer in earning trust. nobody in my life is friend or family until they have earned my trust. Neither do I expect to be anyone's friend or family until they are convinced they have earned my trust. And I keep it that simple. So I generally don't lean into that label in itself as defining anything. To me, the word family, I don't understand. And I won't pretend that I do.
Neither will I.
I want to thank you, Moji. This has been, like I said at the beginning, an interesting conversation.
Yes, it has. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you to everyone for listening in to the Solar Wilson conversation, where we share our views through the lens of a Nigerian, lesbian, legally married couple. So signing off, I am Margaret Solar Wilson.
And I am Moji Solar Wilson.
And as usual, we leave you with our message. Be authentic. Your voice is unique and your words are truth. Your story is powerful. Never, ever be afraid to share your unique perspective and story with the world. Your story will touch someone. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next week.